Szanowni Państwo, mam ogromny zaszczyt i przyjemność powitać na inauguracji konkursu Mam pomysł na startup, jednego z czołowych programów dla innowatorów i startupów w Polsce. Konkurs ten jest ukierunkowany na innowacyjne projekty, zarówno naukowe, technologiczne, jak i kreatywne i artystyczne. Podczas 12 edycji ponad 700 startupów doskonaliło swoje projekty pod opieką ekspertów posiadających wieloletnie doświadczenie w biznesie. Na rynku funkcjonuje już ponad 300 firm wywodzących się z tego właśnie konkursu. I za chwilę dowiemy się, jak będzie wyglądała tegoroczna edycja tego konkursu. Organizatorem konkursu jest Urząd Miasta Łodzi. Urząd Miasta Łodzi skupia wokół tej inicjatywy corocznie ponad 60 partnerów, w tym 5 największych łódzkich uczelni. Również instytucje okołobiznesowe oraz ponad 50 firm. W tym roku partnerami strategicznymi konkursu są Google for Startups, Amazon, Accenture, HRP, Fundacja Life Nature, sieć aptek Rosa oraz łódzkie uczelnie Politechnika Łódzka, Uniwersytet Łódzki oraz Uniwersytet Medyczny w Łodzi. Mimo że spotykamy się tym razem online, mamy jak najbardziej realnych gospodarzy, a są nimi Politechnika Łódzka, ET Promo, grupa Unilex i nad prawidłowym przebiegiem wydarzenia czuwa firma Go Cloud Polska. Dzisiejszą inaugurację poprowadzę ja, nazywam się Elena Pawęta i jestem mentorem. W tym konkursie biorę udział również jako mentor, jako trener dla naszych startupów, ale jestem również trenerem biznesu i adiunktem w Szkole Głównej Handlowej. Jest mi bardzo miło poprowadzić tę inaugurację. Chciałabym rozpocząć tę inaugurację poprzez przywitanie naszych gości specjalnych. Mamy dzisiaj z nami naszych gości, specjalnych partnerów i chciałabym przywitać przede wszystkim pana Adama Pustelnika, pierwszego wiceprezydenta miasta Łodzi. Chciałabym przywitać magnificencję rektorów Politechniki Łódzkiej, Uniwersytetu Łódzkiego, Uniwersytetu Medycznego w Łodzi, Akademii Sztuk Pięknych oraz Państwowej Wyższej Szkoły Filmowej, Telewizyjnej i Teatralnej w Łodzi. Witam również przedstawicieli firm, fundatorów nagród, uczestników konkursu oczywiście oraz wszystkich gości. Podczas całego wydarzenia, chociaż jest to wydarzenie wirtualne, zachęcamy Państwa do komentowania na czacie pod transmisją wydarzenia na YouTubie. Podczas wystąpień naszych gości specjalnych zachęcamy do komentowania, zadawania pytań i interakcji między sobą na czacie. Zróbmy to wydarzenie chociaż w takim formacie online'owym, weźmy jak najwięcej z tego wydarzenia. I w tej chwili, już nie przedłużając, chciałabym poprosić o oficjalne rozpoczęcie konkursu organizatora dzisiejszego wydarzenia, pierwszego wiceprezydenta miasta Łodzi, pana Adama Pustelnika. Zapraszam.
Pani Eleno, dziękuję za tak miłe słowa, ale one są o tyle mylące, że tak naprawdę całą pracę wykonał mój zespół. Ja ewentualnie mogę sobie przypiąć order, natomiast całą pracę wykonał mój fantastyczny zespół w osobie Renaty Biedały, częściowo Oli Cybelińskiej, pod nadzorem dyrektorów Sipy i Brzostowskiego, więc mój współudział w tym sukcesie jest stosunkowo miękki. Natomiast szanowni Państwo, serdecznie witam wszystkich Państwa, którzy zgłosili się do naszego konkursu. To jest nasza 13. edycja, rośniemy w oczach o ponad 100% rok do roku. W poprzedniej edycji w naszym programie startupowym wzięło udział, o ile się nie mylę, 45 projektów. W tym roku zgłosiły się do nas aż 102 innowacyjne projekty, nie tylko z Łodzi, nie tylko z Polski, ale i z całego świata, z Indii, Francji, Niemiec czy Wielkiej Brytanii. Sukces pierwszego etapu konkursu to również ogromna zasługa naszych partnerów, których Pani wyczytała i za co bardzo dziękuję, bo bez ich wsparcia i rzeczowego, i intelektualnego, i merytorycznego bylibyśmy zupełnie w innym punkcie, za co jeszcze raz wszelkim partnerom konkursu bardzo, ale to bardzo dziękuję. W tym roku ponad 60 firm i instytucji podjęło współpracę z nami, czyli z miastem, przy organizacji tego projektu, oferując wsparcie finansowe, rzeczowe czy merytoryczne. Małe, nowoczesne, dynamicznie rozwijające się, szybkie, zwinne firmy potrafią zmienić nasze życie codzienne. Nazywamy je startupami, ale myślę, że definicja przeze mnie wspomniana jest co najmniej równie dobra. Zmienia się w sposób, w jaki żyjemy, czytamy informacje, korzystamy z miast, kontaktujemy się z innymi ludźmi. Zmianie ulegają procesy produkcji, de facto wszystko podlega ciągłej zmianie, a ostatnie rok, półtora najdobitniej tego dowiodło. Trzymam gorąco kciuki za wszystkie projekty, bo im więcej podmiotów z Łodzi będzie albo architektami tej zmiany, albo weźmie udział w tej zmianie, trawestując, im więcej Łodzi, tym lepiej dla Łodzi. Życzę Państwu wszystkim, żebyśmy za parę lat się tutaj spotkali i żeby nasi uczestnicy mieli fotele z CEO, drugich Uberów, Twitterów, Beyond Meatów i jeszcze wielu innych podmiotów, tylko w naszej lepszej łódzkiej wersji. Bardzo, Szanowni Państwo, dziękuję i życzę powodzenia uczestnikom.
Panie Prezydencie, bardzo dziękujemy za oficjalne rozpoczęcie konkursu i przywitanie nas wszystkich. Chciałabym przekazać teraz głos przedstawicielom naszych łódzkich uczelni i jest z nami dzisiaj pani prorektor do spraw współpracy z otoczeniem Uniwersytetu Łódzkiego, pani profesor doktor habilitowana Agnieszka Kurczewska. Proszę bardzo.
Szanowni Państwo, przede wszystkim bardzo dziękuję za zaproszenie. Eleno, miło Cię widzieć w zupełnie innej roli. Uniwersytet Łódzki jest partnerem programu Młodzi w Łodzi i to od początku, bo od 2008 roku. Jest też partnerem strategicznym Mam Pomysł na Startup. Cieszy nas ta współpraca, przede wszystkim jej ciągłość, ale też stałe doskonalenie. W tym roku widzimy umiędzynarodowienie ogromne tej inicjatywy, więc każdy rok przynosi nowości, przynosi niespodzianki, ogromne gratulacje i trzymamy oczywiście kciuki za wszystkie kolejne edycje. Co dzisiaj chciałabym zadeklarować, to jest nie tylko wsparcie Uniwersytetu Łódzkiego dla wszelakich inicjatyw wspierających przedsiębiorczość, ale chciałabym Państwu też powiedzieć, czy przede wszystkim powiedzieć, że rozwój przedsiębiorczości i innowacyjności staje się priorytetem Uniwersytetu Łódzkiego na najbliższą dekadę. Sformułowaliśmy to bardzo wyraźnie w finalizowanej właśnie nowej strategii Uniwersytetu Łódzkiego. Chcemy, by nasi studenci, generalnie by łodzianie chcieli i mogli realizować swoje pomysły na własną działalność. I myślę, że przedsiębiorczość widzimy bardzo podobnie jak organizatorzy dzisiejszego konkursu, to znaczy widzimy ją jako sposób samorealizacji, spełnienia marzeń, podążania własną drogą i my jako uczelnia bardzo chcemy studentów do tego przygotowywać, uczyć kompetencji przedsiębiorczych, umożliwiać kontakt z praktyką. Kilka miesięcy temu powołaliśmy w tym celu m.in. Radę do Spraw Przedsiębiorczości. Przed nami wręcz gigantyczne wyzwanie w postaci inicjatywy edukacyjnej i popularyzującej przedsiębiorczość wśród studentów, wśród łodzian. Więc chcemy też wspierać naszych studentów w inkubacji, chcemy wspierać naszych studentów w akceleracji. To są takie obszary dosyć poważne i to wymaga współpracy z otoczeniem, więc otwieramy się na otoczenie i również oferujemy otoczeniu nasze, jeśli tak mogę powiedzieć, usługi, bo na Uniwersytecie Łódzkim jest bowiem wiedza ekspercka w zakresie i przedsiębiorczości, i edukacji w zakresie przedsiębiorczości. Na sam może koniec jeszcze dodam, że bardzo ważne jest, żeby upowszechniać możliwie szeroką wizję przedsiębiorczości. Przedsiębiorczość ma wiele twarzy. My mówimy, przedsiębiorczość jest tak naprawdę wszędzie. Dotyczy wszystkich tematów. Może być technologiczna, ale może być też artystyczna, może być społeczna. I właśnie jako uczelnia klasyczna wspieramy każdą formę i mamy wiele sukcesów w tym zakresie. I cieszy nas, że również ta różnorodność projektów jest widoczna na każdej gali podsumowującej ten konkurs. Więc korzystając tutaj z okazji, apeluję, byśmy razem budowali przedsiębiorczy ekosystem w Łodzi i proponowali przedsięwzięcia, które się uzupełniają. Więc szanowni organizatorzy, jeszcze raz gratulacje i wyrazy uznania. Z kolei uczestnicy, finaliści, jestem niezmiernie ciekawa pomysłów. Trzymam kciuki za każdy pomysł i oczywiście życzę powodzenia. Dziękuję serdecznie.
Bardzo dziękujemy Pani Rektor. Ja śledzę inicjatywy Uniwersytetu Łódzkiego i faktycznie widziałam, że jest dużo ciekawych programów wspierających przedsiębiorczość, także myślę, że naprawdę tutaj mamy duży potencjał, żeby wspólnymi siłami rozwijać ten ekosystem przedsiębiorczości w Łodzi. Jako kolejnego gościa chciałabym przywitać również przedstawiciela uczelni, tym razem Politechniki Łódzkiej, i chciałabym przekazać głos rektorowi, pan profesor, doktor habilitowany inżynier Paweł Strumiło, prorektor do spraw rozwoju Politechniki Łódzkiej. Proszę bardzo.
Pani Eleno, szanowni państwo, drodzy uczestnicy, bardzo dziękuję za ten głos. Chcę powiedzieć, że Politechnika Łódzka z wielką przyjemnością przystępuje po raz kolejny do tego konkursu i jest partnerem strategicznym w tym konkursie. Tak jak tutaj było powiedziane wcześniej, każdy tutaj z przedstawicieli zabierających głos ma jakąś rolę do zagrania. Wszystkie one są ważne. My mamy taką rolę, która dotyczy obszaru mentoringu. My szukamy mentorów, zapraszamy mentorów do współpracy, wręcz łączymy mentorów i autorów projektów, nadzorujemy cały ten proces mentoringowy. Ja w tym miejscu właśnie chciałem serdecznie podziękować wszystkim mentorom. Oni pracują pro publico bono. Oni są takim drogowskazem, które bardzo dobrze prowadzi, mamy nadzieję, bo takie doświadczenia już mieliśmy w poprzednich konkursach, właśnie autorów innowacyjnych pomysłów. Również Politechnika Łódzka, chcę powiedzieć, podobnie jak Uniwersytet Łódzki, bardzo patrzymy na sprawę przedsiębiorczości i innowacji. Powołaliśmy nowe Centrum Innowacji i Przedsiębiorczości i chcemy bardzo silnie wzmacniać ten obszar. Jak wiadomo, teraz bardzo dużo mówi się o tak zwanym trzecim kryterium ewaluacji działalności uczelni, która dotyczy właśnie oddziaływania na otoczenie gospodarcze i społeczeństwo, gdzie również to oddziaływanie się przejawia w odpowiednim wykształceniu kadr dla przedsiębiorczości. Dzisiaj, proszę państwa, chciałem też w związku z tym zaprosić, w dzisiejszym drugiej części wydarzenia odbędzie się warsztat, który będzie poprowadzony siłami naszego biura karier, na którym to warsztacie uczestnicy konkursu dowiedzą się, jakich otrzymali świetnych mentorów. To jest też bardzo ważne wydarzenie. W tym roku taką pewną elementem, takim nowości, która Politechnika chce zaproponować, jest możliwość wzmocnienia konkursu o wykorzystanie sieci pilotażowej, sieci komórkowej 5G. Ona daje fantastyczne nowe możliwości, jeśli chodzi o przepływność danych. My będziemy jutro testować latające drony z wykorzystaniem właśnie tej sieci, także jeżeli ktoś by chciał być w okolicy drugiego kampusu B Politechniki Łódzkiej, to może się przyjrzeć tym testom, także też zapraszamy uczestników do wykorzystywania tej technologii. Proszę państwa, i taki może jeszcze sygnał z historii badaczy, jest taka znana bardzo postać James Maxwell, który jest autorem tak zwanych równań Maxwella. dosyć złożonych. One mają postać różniczkową i całkową, natomiast to jest osoba, której przypisuje się unifikacja oddziaływań magnetycznych i elektrycznych. Dzięki niemu mogliśmy z tych równań możemy wyprowadzić prędkość światła, możemy tłumaczyć zjawiska elektromagnetyzmu i między innymi sieć 5G tak naprawdę wykorzystuje te prawa, które pięknie opisał Maxwell. Natomiast jego zapytano, jaką zaproponował te równania, jaka jest korzyść, tak? To był XIX wiek z tych równań, więc on to bardzo ładnie zripostował i powiedział, że no tak, ale jaka jest korzyść z noworodka? On był świadomy siły tych równań, która dzisiaj naprawdę daje nam fundamenty do tych osiągnięć wykorzystujących właśnie technologie GPS, telefony komórkowe i inne nowoczesne urządzenia, które wykorzystują fale elektromagnetyczne. Proszę Państwa, ja tak kończąc, chciałem również zaprosić na prezentację mówcy motywacyjnego Johna Spence, który ja kilka słuchałem jego wystąpień. To jest naprawdę porywający mówca. Można rzeczywiście dostać skrzydeł. Proszę Państwa, tego wszystkiego życzę naszym uczestnikom sukcesów i do zobaczenia z wszystkimi na gali rozdania nagród. Oby nas wszystkich było jak najwięcej. Dziękuję bardzo.
Dziękujemy panie rektorze. Bardzo się cieszymy, że tutaj wspierają nas największe łódzkie uczelnie. Teraz przechodzimy do przedstawicieli biznesu, do naszych partnerów i chciałabym teraz przekazać głos Michałowi Kramarzowi. Pan Michał Kramarz jest dyrektorem Google for Startups w Europie Środkowo-Wschodniej i również jest szefem warszawskiego kampusu Google. To jest świetna przestrzeń, którą osobiście bardzo lubię. Uważam, że jest świetna do rozwoju startupów. I także zapraszam, Panie Michale.
Witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie, witam partnerów, uczestników, mentorów konkursu. W imieniu Google for Startups jest mi niezmiernie miło być częścią inicjatywy, jaką jest konkurs Mam pomysł na startup. To jest debiut Google for Startups w roli partnera tego konkursu, ale mam nadzieję, że późno, ale kolejne edycje też będziemy w stanie wspierać. Misją Google for Startups jest szerzenie wiedzy i wyrównywanie szans dla startupów, tak aby miały szansę na międzynarodową ekspansję, na wzrost, na rozwój, niezależnie od tego, w jakim miejscu czy w jakim etapie rozwoju się znajdują. I to, co Google chce zaproponować startupom, zarówno w tym konkursie, ale ogólnie z perspektywy naszych inicjatyw, to wsparcie technologiczne, to wsparcie wiedzą i doświadczeniem, a przede wszystkim międzynarodową siecią kontaktów i mentorów pomagających w rozwijaniu biznesu. Łódź jako jedno z największych miast, duży ośrodek akademicki, a przede wszystkim dynamicznie rozwijające się miasto ma ogromny potencjał. Patrząc po ilości zgłoszeń do konkursu, patrząc po tym, jakie startupy zgłaszały się do konkursu, widać, że i biotechnologiczny aspekt, i IoT, i wiele elementów związanych z technologią jest mocną stroną Łodzi. My mamy ogromną przyjemność być partnerem konkursu. Ja też osobiście, będąc absolwentem Politechniki Łódzkiej i MBA na Uniwersytecie Łódzkim, mam dodatkową satysfakcję z tego, że jestem częścią tego projektu i oferuję również swoją wiedzę z perspektywy doświadczenia i biznesowego, i Google'owego do tego, żeby wesprzeć. A dodatkowo niezmiernie się cieszę, że cały konkurs będzie też przeprowadzony na technologii Google, tak jak tutaj się spotykamy na Google Meet, tak jak streaming jest robiony na YouTubie. Mamy nadzieję, że zarówno startupy, które biorą udział, Państwo, którzy bierzecie udział w tym, skorzystają z tych rozwiązań, ale też pomogą one w rozwijaniu i skalowaniu biznesów i mam nadzieję, że doczekamy się kolejnych ciekawych, interesujących projektów wywodzących się z Łodzi i Łódź tylko i wyłącznie na tym zyska.
Dziękujemy bardzo, Panie Michale. Bardzo się cieszymy, że Google nas wspiera i Pan na pewno ma doświadczenie z najbardziej efektywnymi sposobami rozwoju przedsiębiorczości i cieszymy się, że będziemy działać wspólnie. Teraz chciałabym przekazać głos kolejnemu mówcy. Pan Cezary Pieczetowski, dyrektor Centrum Logistyki Amazon Pawlikowicach. Proszę bardzo.
Dzień dobry Państwu, witam wszystkich bardzo serdecznie. Na wstępie też w imieniu firmy Amazon chciałbym bardzo podziękować za zaproszenie do udziału w konkursie. Uważam, że jest to fundament tak naprawdę obecnie tworzenia dobrej, zdrowej gospodarki i też rozwoju miasta, także no, dla mnie to jest fantastyczna rzecz, jak dla łodzianina, który wrócił do Łodzi po 14 latach, jest możliwość wsparcia tego programu z firmą. No, jesteśmy w Łodzi obecni od niecałego roku, a w Pawlikowicach od ponad 1,5 roku, także no, relatywnie szybko angażujemy się we wszystkie możliwe inicjatywy razem ze społecznością i z miastem Łódź i z uczelniami. Także mam nadzieję, że będziemy tę współpracę owocnie dalej kontynuować. Natomiast ja sam osobiście bardzo dziękuję tutaj miastu Łódź, że taki konkurs jest organizowany. I cieszę się już, nie mogę się doczekać godziny 17, kiedy się spotkam ze startupem, który mam za zadanie mentorować w następnych tygodniach, miesiącach. Mam nadzieję, że skorzystają z mojego doświadczenia, czy ten startup, czy też inne, które będą chciały nawiązać kontakt. Także jeszcze raz bardzo dziękuję za inicjatywę i bardzo się cieszę, że Amazon i ja też osobiście jesteśmy jego częścią.
Bardzo dziękuję Panie Czarku. Ja również już nie mogę się doczekać tej kolejnej części. Mamy jeszcze parę prezentacji przed nami. Chciałabym przypomnieć, że mamy transmisję na YouTubie i mamy tam też opcję czatu. Widziałam, że niektóre osoby się przywitały. Pan Kamil, pan Marcin, pan Mariusz, pani Izabela i wiele innych. Zachęcam do komentowania pod naszą transmisją, zadawania pytań. Mogą to być pytania dodatkowe do naszych prelegentów, mogą to być pytania organizacyjne, na które możemy odpowiedzieć bezpośrednio w czacie. Jesteśmy tu dla Was i chętnie odpowiemy na wszystkie pytania. W tym momencie chciałabym przekazać głos kolejnemu mówcy. Kolejny nasz gość specjalny to jest pan Marcin Miller, menadżer Accenture Services. Proszę bardzo.
Dziękuję bardzo. Szanowni Państwo, to dla mnie ogromny zaszczyt, że mogę się znaleźć, przemawiać w tak szanownym gronie. Accenture uczestniczy w programie Młodzi w Łodzi. Mam pomysł na startup od 11 lat. Właściwie to nie mogło być inaczej, bo jesteśmy w Łodzi obecnie od roku 2001, od 2005 istnieje biuro Accenture w Łodzi. Dzięki temu, że jesteśmy w programie 11 lat, mogłem przez ten czas obserwować niejako od wewnątrz rozwój tej inicjatywy. Pamiętam pierwsze niezbyt realne, niezbyt dopracowane biznesplany, które musieliśmy korygować, wskazując młodym ludziom ryzyka, których nie widzieli w swoim biznesowym optymizmie. Pamiętam też kameralne początkowo obrady kapituły prowadzone przez obecnego z nami prezydenta pana Adama Pustelnika, przerywane tradycyjnym hejnałem granym z południe z okna Urzędu Miasta.
Tak było, potwierdzam, pan Marcin nie zmyśla.
Tak było. I pamiętam, jak z każdym rokiem przybywało coraz więcej, coraz ciekawszych i coraz bardziej dopracowanych pomysłów. Jak niedopracowane i ogólne biznesplany zaczynały z każdą edycją być coraz bardziej profesjonalne. Jak początkowo tradycyjne inicjatywy biznesowe związane z handlem czy usługami ustępowały pomysłom z obszaru biotechnologii, telekomunikacji, sztucznej inteligencji czy unikalnych rozwiązań technicznych. Widziałem, jak zmienia się, rozwija i dojrzewa ten program. Cieszę się jako łodzianin mieszkający w tym mieście od urodzenia, że mogę teraz do Państwa przemawiać z biura globalnej korporacji, ale mając za plecami grafikę przedstawiającą łódzką białą fabrykę. I cieszę się, że w moim mieście rozwijają się tak wspaniałe, inspirujące pomysły. Dzięki takim inicjatywom Łódź jest w XXI wieku postrzegana jako dynamicznie rozwijające się miasto i jako dobre miejsce i do życia, i do prowadzenia biznesu. Cieszę się, że również Accenture, zatrudniając obecnie niemal 500 młodych ludzi w naszym łódzkim biurze, do tego rozwoju dołożyło swoją małą cegiełkę. Dziękuję z tego miejsca wszystkim osobom, które z pasją, z zaangażowaniem, z entuzjazmem prowadzą, wspierają ten program od wielu lat. Pani Renacie Biadale, panu Adamowi Pustelnikowi i wszystkim innym, którzy przez ten czas przyczynili się do rozwoju marki Łodzi w Łodzi, mam pomysł na startup. Jestem przekonany, że kolejna edycja konkursu przyniesie kolejne ciekawe pomysły na biznes. Nie mogę się już doczekać, kiedy będę mógł się z nimi zapoznać. Dziękuję bardzo.
Dziękuję bardzo, Panie Marcinie. Świetna wypowiedź. Teraz zapraszam naszego kolejnego gościa specjalnego i chciałabym przekazać głos panu pan Janusz Piotrowski, prezes zarządu grupy Unilex. Proszę bardzo, zapraszam.
Dzień dobry Państwu. Bardzo dziękuję za zaproszenie i wyróżnienie tak naprawdę, możliwość udziału w tak zacnym programie. Specjalne podziękowania dla Pani Renaty Biedały za poświęcony czas i przekonanie do zaangażowania i do udziału w takim procesie. Wyjątkowo osobiste podziękowania dla Alicji Dobrskiej, która ponad 10 lat temu tworzyła pierwsze projekty, które dzisiaj się rozwinęły po kilkunastu latach w tak zacny program. Mamy przyjemność z panią Alicją Dobską współpracować i tworzyć nasze projekty wewnętrzne w ramach grupy Unilex. Poświęcę znacznie więcej czasu niż dzisiejsze wystąpienie naszym podopiecznym, czyli startupom, bo w tym się zdecydowanie lepiej czuję niż opowiadając i o tym, co robimy. Nasza grupa Unilex w tak dużym skrócie skupia bardzo szeroki zakres działalności, od usług po handel, po deweloperkę. Myślę, że to, co dla naszych klientów, którymi zajmujemy się z zakresu prawa, księgowości, podatków, będziemy mogli nasze doświadczenie podzielić się tym doświadczeniem i przekazać nie tylko czysto merytoryczne porady, ale również praktyczne, które sami wdrażamy w życie i dla naszych klientów małych, dużych, jak również dla naszych firm wewnętrznych i spółek. Jeszcze raz podziękowania za możliwość udziału, jeszcze raz podziękowania za możliwość podzielenia się doświadczeniem, wiedzą. Wierzę szczerze w ten projekt, chociażby z tego powodu, że on działa już tak naprawdę kilkanaście lat. Służymy naszą wiedzą, naszym doświadczeniem i w oczekiwaniu na spotkanie już z podopiecznymi startupami przekazuję głos kolejnej osobie. Dziękuję uprzejmie.
Dziękujemy bardzo. Dziękujemy. Widzę, że już wszyscy nie mogą się doczekać tej kolejnej części naszego spotkania. Chciałabym zaprosić jeszcze naszego kolejnego gościa, pani Julitę Gajdzicką, koordynatorkę aptek Rosa. Proszę bardzo.
Dzień dobry, witam serdecznie wszystkich. Również bardzo dziękujemy jako firma za możliwość udziału. Serdecznie witam w imieniu własnym, w imieniu sieci aptek Rosa. Jesteśmy firmą, która rozwija się od 15 lat na rynku łódzkim i w Łodzi. I szczerze powiem, że kiedy usłyszeliśmy i dostaliśmy zaproszenie do udziału jako partner w takiej inicjatywie Urzędu Miasta, to nie mogło nas zabraknąć tutaj. Chcemy wspierać przede wszystkim rozwój naszego regionu. Bardzo jesteśmy dumni z tego, że Łódź i że możemy uczestniczyć w tak fajnym konkursie. Rzeczywistość pandemii pokazała nam, że warto szukać pomysłu na biznes przede wszystkim w świecie online, tak? Nowe rozwiązania to tak naprawdę nowe reguły gry na istniejącym w tej chwili rynku, też nowe miejsca pracy, więc bardzo, bardzo się cieszymy, że możemy wziąć udział jako partner w tak fajnym konkursie i miejmy nadzieję, że nie ten jeden raz, ale kolejne konkursy i inne rozwojowe projekty z Urzędem Miasta będziemy mieli szansę również wesprzeć. Życzę powodzenia wszystkim, którzy będą brali udział w konkursie i bardzo serdecznie jeszcze raz dziękuję za możliwości wypowiedzenia w imieniu firmy.
Dziękuję bardzo, pani Julito. I na tym kończymy część wystąpień, takich krótkich wystąpień naszych gości specjalnych. Bardzo dziękujemy wszystkim za obecność, za udział w tym programie i za chwilę przejdziemy do kolejnej część naszego spotkania, którą już krótko zapowiedział pan rektor. To będzie wystąpienie naszego gościa specjalnego. Warto czerpać inspiracje od ludzi wyznaczających światowe trendy, a nasz mówca specjalny, który za chwilę wystąpi tutaj dla nas, z pewnością należy do takich osób. I o zapowiedź naszego mówcy specjalnego, Johna Spence'a, poprosimy Adama Brzostowskiego, dyrektora Biura Gospodarczego i Współpracy Międzynarodowej. Proszę bardzo.
Zaczynamy.
Hi, hello everyone. It's my great pleasure to announce and introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. John Spence. John Spence is recognized as one of the top business thought leaders and leadership development experts in the world. John is dedicated to helping people and businesses to be more successful by making the very complex awesomely simple. Today, John will tell about advanced strategic thinking and the formula for business excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, John is undoubtedly a man with a big heart. His fee was donated to charity for Wielka Orkiestra Świątecznej Pomocy. During John's speech, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We will follow it during the speech, and all questions will be transferred on behalf of the audience by Mr. Grzegorz Liszkiewicz from the University of Technology. Make long story short, John, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Adam. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a tremendous honor to be here with you. I've got a lot to cover. I'm going to try to go at a gentle pace. I was presenting in Austria not too long ago, and my host was introducing me to his company. And for most of the folks in the audience, English was their second or third language. And he was introducing me. He said, I have asked John to speak slower. He cannot. You will all have to listen faster. So I've got a lot of information. If you've got a notepad ready, let's get going. So I've got two topics today. I'm going to talk about strategy and strategic thinking, and then I'm going to share what I believe are some fundamental aspects of running a world-class company. And I've been doing this for about 30 years. I've worked with many, many, many startups, all the way up to Apple and IBM and Google and other companies like that. So here's what I've learned. It's basically the same things. There's just more zeros and more people in big companies. But the fundamentals of running a world-class organization remain pretty steady. So let's first look at strategic thinking. And there are 5 levels to become a great strategic thinker. The first level is business acumen, doing your homework, reading, studying, learning, doing everything you can to bring in more information about business success. I'll give you an interesting statistic. If you were to read 6 books a year or the equivalent thereof, listening to YouTube videos or podcasts or reading blogs, but if you were to read roughly 6 books a year on business improvement, success, strategy, whatever you might want to learn, I call those skill-based books, 6 a year, you're in the top 1% in Poland. 12 a year, 1 every month, you're in the top 1% in the world. So dedicating yourself to lifelong learning and building that foundation of business knowledge is the first level of strategic thinking. The second level is personal experience. All of the answers are not in the books or on the YouTube videos or the blogs. That's an important place to learn information and bring it in, but then you have to take it and combine it with your experience, your team's experience, your mentor's experience, to take those things and figure out the next level. The next level of strategic thinking is the most important, and that is pattern recognition. When you've got a lot of information from your studies, you've got a lot of experience, or you've got people helping you to have experience, the idea then is to back up and look for patterns. The best way I can explain this is to use chess as an example. When people begin to play chess, typically they only remember that as long as you don't take your hand off the piece, you can move it anywhere you want to on the board. So they go like this and move it around. They have no strategy. They're not sure what they're trying to accomplish. They're just guessing. And we'll talk about that in a minute. When you get a little bit better, you start to think what's called 2 or 3 moves down board. You start saying, well, I'll move my pawn here, and then this will happen, and hopefully I'll be able to move my rook over here. And you're starting to formulate strategy. When you get really, really good at chess, and I just saw an interview with Garry Kasparov, who was one of the world's greatest chess grandmasters. He said, everything about becoming great at chess is pattern recognition. I look at the board and I see a pattern, and I think of all the other patterns that can go from there, what my opponent might do, what I might do. And chess grandmasters don't think 2 or 3 moves down board. They think 20, 30, 100 moves down board. They have the entire game looked out as a pattern. It's the same thing in strategy. Your ability to look at data, information, look at the marketplace, your competition, and find the pattern of what's happening, and then figure out a strategy that allows you to get an advantage using that pattern, which leads to the 4th step, which is strategic insight. I've looked at all the patterns. I've got my business acumen. I've got a mentor. I see the pattern, and then all of a sudden I come up with a great strategic idea, strategic insight. And then the 5th and final, which is also extremely important, I would put pattern recognition in this one, which is disciplined execution. It does not matter how good your strategy is if you can't execute it effectively. I've seen lots of companies with very smart people, great products, really good strategy that fail because they only implement a small amount of their strategy. So that's the 5 levels of strategic thinking. Now I'd like to go into how you formulate strategy. And I teach strategy at several universities, and I've taught it for many, many businesses. And most people think that strategy is very complex. And it can be. There's all kinds of theories and frameworks and philosophies. But the truth of the matter is good strategy is elegant. It's simple. It's easy to understand. So a couple big ideas about setting a strategy for your business. The first one is it's a guess. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. Hopefully it's a well-informed and thoughtful guess, and you've got that data and the information, but when you get down to it, everything is just hoping that things turn out okay in the future. As an example, no one could have anticipated where we'd be now a year and a half ago. In 2019, no one was saying there'll be a pandemic. This industry will fall apart. If you own a restaurant, you're in trouble. No one could have planned for that. They had good guesses. So you want to make a good guess, but realize it's not a blueprint. You're not predicting the future. You're doing the best you can to create a plan to try to make the future you want to have happen for you. So that's the next one. So now that we've got a guess, let's talk about the 3 levels of sort of guessing. The first one is the problem you're facing as you look at your strategy and your business and your planning and everything. You look at it, it's either a puzzle, a problem, or a mystery. Let me explain those. A puzzle has an answer. It's just like the picture on the box. You put it together, it is only going to look good one way. So there is a definite answer to a puzzle. I can figure that out. I know I have the one right answer. A problem, on the other hand, has multiple right answers. One of the things that I thought was so interesting that I've learned is all throughout our college career, university career, lower school, we're taught to find the one right answer. If you want to get a good grade, good marks, you have to get the right answer. As soon as you get into business or into life, for that matter, you realize that there isn't always one right answer. So what great strategic thinkers do is they come up with a really good idea and they look at it, and instead of stopping on that idea and saying, which I see happen a lot, great idea, let's go with it. Say, no, great idea. Let's put it over here and look for a second great idea and talk it through and find another way that might work and go, great, let's put that one over here and then find a third right way, find a third solution. And what usually happens is if you push yourself to do 2 or 3 or 4 possible solutions, when you combine all those ideas together, you come up with the best solution. So a problem has multiple right answers, and the idea is to pursue all those answers, then combine them to find the best answer. Now, the last one, puzzle problem, is a mystery, and a mystery has no answer. Again, it's like the future. I can think about it, I can try to project it, but what's going to happen? Nobody knows. So it's a complete mystery, and I just have to be as well prepared as I possibly can. So puzzle, problem, mystery. The next one.
Hello, John. Hold on.
Yes.
My job here is to ask you a question. It's not an easy job, taking into account how many interesting things you're saying, but we already got some questions, so maybe it's a good time to go with one, because it really relates to what you said. The question is how to enable and amplify creativity on every level of a company. So I think creativity, guessing, strategic thinking, I think it's a good moment to maybe go a bit more to this one.
Great. Very, very good question. Whoever asked it, thank you. When I look at creativity and innovation in a company, there's a couple things that I think create that. Number one, and we're going to go all the way back to the reading, studying, learning, is bringing information in from different sources than you would normally look at. When I work with a company that built a manufacturing company that built something, I go, let's go look at restaurants or hotels or car dealerships or the symphony, and bringing all these unique ideas from places you would never think about that spur creative ideas. And again, what you're going to find out, we call it a thing called the adjacent new, is I've got an idea here that I've been thinking about, but I'm going to bring some information over here from a completely different source, philosophy, and put them together. And those two ideas together create a third innovative idea. And that's the new idea. The other thing that I think brings innovation and creativity is asking lots of questions. Questions like, what if we did it this way? How could we change this? Why has no one ever tried it this way? Why are you saying this won't work? But to constantly question everything. When I worked at Microsoft, they had a really great phrase. People are safe, ideas are not. We will never attack you. I'm never going to go after you. I'm not going to say that's a stupid idea or bad idea. What we're going to do is I'm going to treat you with respect and dignity, but we're going to tear every idea up to make it the best we possibly can. So people are safe, ideas are not. Bring in information from other places and constantly question. Ask questions about, is this the right way? Could we do it differently? Is there another way to try this? So Greg, that would be my answer to that question. Good?
Really good. And I think it also refers to our audience. Keep asking questions. John is waiting for more.
Yep. All right. So let's move forward. I said it earlier, but I want to say it again. A business plan should be simple, clean, focused, and I love the word elegant. It's not supposed to be a document that's 300 pages long. You might have lots of, when I was 26 years old, I was named CEO of one of the Rockefeller Foundations. And I was overseeing projects in 20 countries around the world. And our strategic plan for that international company was 6 pages long. Now we had, a financial over here, and we had some background material, but the main plan that decided how we would run that company was just a few pages long. Also, important idea here is we took that plan, we put it in a book with a red cover on it, and we used to call it the Red Book. And we never had a major meeting or a strategy meeting or a meeting with our board that everyone didn't have the Red Book in front of them. So if we were talking about something, we could look right at that couple of pages and say, does this match our strategy? Is this aligned with what we said we would do? So we were constantly working the plan. Now, here's a very, very important idea. We would use that plan, and every now and then someone would say, we need to change this, or we need to move that, or we need to put in a new strategy during the time we had set the strategy. And the idea is if we're going to completely rewrite this, put new stuff in it, redo it and bind it again in a red binder and send it to our entire board, it better be something really important. So when you look at it, the only reason to change your strategy, in my opinion, is when the market demands it. Not because so lots of startups pivot. They get one direction, they get there, that isn't working, they pivot in another direction. That is a good example of the market demands that we change our strategy. We can't sell our product or our service, nobody wants it. So we're gonna have to go over here and create a new one. Short of that, if you change too much, you never get any traction and you never get ahead on your plan. I see lots of companies that every month they have a different strategy. That is not going to make you successful. Another idea on this is financial projections. Here's what I'll tell you. Every startup I've ever worked with in my life, their financial projections look like this. We're going to start at $100 and then we'll be 10,000, then 10 million, then $1 billion in the next year. I have never seen a startup that says we're not going to make any money at all, and we probably won't for 20 years. So everybody, when you look at financial projections as an investor, which I've invested in companies before, or I help people invest in them, I look at it and go, probably not going to go exactly that way, because that's pretty optimistic. So understand that when someone looks at your company and your financial projections, they expect it to be pretty enthusiastic and optimistic, and probably won't reach those numbers. Along that line, there's another idea too, is a lot of startups say the entire world is my market. I've got, 1 billion possible people that will buy this. Very rarely does a product work that way. You've got to find your section, your niche. Where are my target customers? The people that would happily pay for what I do. And I'm going to tell you in a minute how to set a strategy around that. But it can't be everybody is not your market. It's got to be a specific market. So this is a key idea here. And I'm actually going to do this in reverse. I've made myself some notes here to make sure I do it. Let's talk about investors and why they invest in a company. So I just said that everyone says they have a big market usually, or a very good market, and they've got big, strong financial projections. So we're going to sort of set that aside, and I'm going to assume that you have a good market for your product or service. So here's how most investors look at it. Pretty good product, pretty good team, good market, walk away. It's just pretty good. It's mediocre. It's not that great. The team's not experienced. The product or service is not exciting, and the market is not that well defined. And here's a really important point. When you go to a potential investor and they say, no, I don't want to invest, very few people do this. Ask them why. Just say, okay, I understand you're not interested. That's okay. I understand you don't like my startup. That's cool. But why don't you want to invest specifically? And what'll happen is, if you're running a startup and you're trying to get sponsors or money or whatever, is you'll probably get turned down a few times, maybe several dozen times. Each one of those times, if you ask why, you'll see a pattern emerge. People will say the same basic reason they don't want to help you with your company or invest in your company. After that pattern emerges, now you know what you need to change. Now you look at it and go, okay, they're not giving us money because my team isn't experienced enough. I need some mentors, or I need to bring in someone that's been doing this for years because the investors aren't confident that our team can be successful. So always ask when you're told no, why not? So the next one, I've got a really good product with a good market and a pretty good team. What investors say, let me buy the product. Let me have the patent, whatever it might be. I don't think your team can bring this to market, but we think it's a great product. So we're interested in the product, but we're not interested in you. The third one is you've got a really good team with a pretty good product and maybe a pretty good market. That's when an investor says, I'll invest. I believe in this team. They're innovative, they're creative, they're smart, they're talented, they have good mentors. I think their product's pretty good, but the team is so good, I know they'll fix the product and find the market. And if this product or service doesn't work, they'll invent a new one. But these people are so smart and talented. So what you hear me saying is investors invest in people. Yes, absolutely. They look at the product and service, and they look at the innovation, and they look at the market, and they look at the financial projections. But the single most important thing is, do I believe these people can make this happen? So that means that probably the most important thing in your startup or in any business, I can say this quite clearly, the most important thing in any business is to have a great team, top talent, because the quality of the people that you can get, grow, and keep on your team will directly determine the success of your organization. So team is really, really important.
So we have quite a few questions coming on, but before we get to them, I just want to use one of the phrases you wrote in your book. A players want to play with A players. I think
that is correct.
I think that very well, reflects the idea of choosing, the right people for a startup.
And investors want to invest in A players.
Exactly.
Extremely well put, Greg. Extremely well put.
So yeah, John, quite a few questions coming on. Would you like me to ask them right now or wait for Q&A at the end? We have four questions.
Let's do two.
Okay.
And then, because I've still got a lot of stuff to teach.
Yes.
and do two.
It's morning in Florida, so you can, we still have time. Okay, so here we go. Isabella asked us about, you said about asking questions for your team. And Isabella says, what if the team expects more answers than questions? How should you activate them?
Wow, Isabella, great question. So a couple of things. I teach leadership. I wrote a book on leadership. I've led a bunch of companies. Here's what I'll tell you. Great leaders are really good at asking great questions and being an intense listener. Yes, you have to have confidence. You have to have some answers. Here's our plan. Here's our strategy. This is my vision. Here's some input on how I think that should go. But if you have great people, and Steve Jobs was famous for this, he said it all the time, is hire great people and get out of their way and let them do what they do best. So yes, you're going to give some direction and input and ideas, but you equally want to challenge your people, bring out their best ideas, be innovative, be creative. So it's a balance between giving answers and asking great questions, not, focused questions that get great answers. The way I always look at it is think of the kind of answer you want to get, then back up and create a question that will get people talking about that. So you're not just throwing out questions, very focused questions. Cool, yeah. Great question that you asked. All right, do another one.
I'm just passing the questions. It's really, good position. So now we have questions from Rafał, really good one, again, referring to people. So Rafał said, okay, he wants to build a team of A players in his startup from ground up. And he basically asks how to approach this problem, especially in the condition of a startup, which is a high risk condition, how to attract A players to startup.
Very good. I did a massive research study on this with all of the top companies I've worked with, from startups to, again, the very top, Apple and Microsoft. And I went to their best A players. And an A player is someone that can work anywhere they want to work. They're so good that if they quit their job today, they would have a new job tomorrow. They're that talented. So I asked them then, if you could work anywhere you want to work, why do you work here? And they gave me 6 answers. And the first one is going to be an interesting thing with startups. The first one was pay, but not high pay, reasonable pay. A fair and reasonable, and what I always say is 10% above or below what I would make to do the same job anyplace else, which means though in a startup, it's going to be 10% above or below what you would make to work in another startup, which might be zero. So pay is going to come off the table. Here's the other things that really motivate A players. Number one is challenging, meaningful work. I want to do something that's important. Again, we'll use an Apple quote from Steve Jobs. I want to put a dent in the universe. I want to bring a new idea to the world that will change things. So first one is challenging, meaningful work. The second one is cool colleagues. The A players you already have attract other A players because they say, I want to do work with this person. This person is really cool. They're smart, they're bright, they're innovative. I want to be on that team and learn from them and do great work together. So cool colleagues. The third one is winning culture. I want to have a great culture where I'm having fun. I enjoy the people I work with. I consider them my friends. I'm proud of what I'm doing. So that culture, and we're going to, again, that's going to come in a second. The next one is growth. And that's in two areas. Personal growth. I want to know that I'm learning. I'm learning new stuff, new ideas, that I'm smarter at the end of the month than I was at the beginning. And then professional growth, which says I have to see a place for myself in this company 5-7 years from today. Do I believe this company is going to make it and I could be a part of growing this company? If somebody isn't challenged and isn't learning and they don't really see a place for themselves in the company 5 years in the future, then they're going to leave and go someplace else. But the last one, which is actually the single most important thing that attracts top talent, I work with a leader I trust, respect, and admire. The number one things that attracts top talent is working for a great leader or working with a great leader. So, and then the other thing I'll put to this is you should always be looking for talent. You might not be able to hire them, but you should always be connecting, learning, getting to know each other. And you never know that maybe 2 years from now or 3 years from now, an opening comes in your business and you look at it and go, that person I've been talking to for 3 years that's really smart, this would be a perfect time to bring them on. What you don't want to do as a business is to all of a sudden realize you need to hire someone and you don't know anyone to hire. You should have what we call a deep bench of 3 or 4 or 5 people that you're talking to All right. Welcome back, everybody. Small technical issue, which we fixed. Everything's good. So I had answered the question about top people, and now I want to talk about how to create an effective winning strategy. And I've been studying strategy and teaching strategy for decades, and this is all of it boiled down to a very concise sort of formula. And here it is. I'm going to go over it a couple of times. All effective strategy is valued differentiation multiplied by disciplined execution. And I'm going to explain what that means in a minute, but we'll put that. So valued differentiation, I'm doing something, well, I'm going to explain in a minute. Valued differentiation multiplied by disciplined execution. So let me now explain that in easier terms. There's 4 criteria that every strategy must meet. Number 1, is what you're bringing to the market unique and compelling? Is it exciting, innovative? People, are enthralled by it. So is it unique and compelling? Number 1. Number 2, that your target customer values very highly. They are more than happy to pay any reasonable price you charge, whether that's $5 or $5 million. They look at it and say, this is awesome. I'm happy to buy it. So unique and compelling, highly valued, and let me do this again, by your target market, your clear focused group of people you want to sell to. Number 3, and this is one of the hardest ones, is it difficult, if not impossible to copy? Is it difficult or impossible to copy? In other words, I brought something that the competition can't do, or it would be really, really hard for them to copy what I'm doing. It would cost money, it would take time, they would have to invent new things. So it's extremely difficult to copy, or I have a patent on it, or I'm the only one that can do this. I'm the only one that has the people or the framework of the process. So difficult, if not impossible to copy. And the number 4 is you can consistently execute it with excellence. That day after day, customer after customer, you deliver excellence. It's exactly as you promised it. So let me do those again real quick because they're so important. It's unique and compelling. Your target customer values it very highly. It's difficult, if not impossible to copy, and you can deliver it with excellence every single time. Now, when I look at that, there are really only 4 or 5 things that meet those criteria. And here they are. Number 1 is your people. If you have the best people and the smartest people, unless they leave your company, that is difficult, if not impossible to copy. So if you've got top talent, part of that, I'm gonna make this part of that is the culture. Do you have a great culture that keeps those talented people? So you've got talent, or people and culture is sort of 1. Number 2 is your customer relationships. Here's a saying that I use a lot. Whoever owns the voice of the customer owns the marketplace. This is where a lot of organizations, businesses fail, is they don't go out and talk to the people that they want to sell to. The more you know about what the people you want to sell to, what they like, what pain they have that you're going to solve, what their problems, their issues are, what they want to achieve, whoever is the closest to the customer and understands the customer the best has a huge competitive advantage. And again, if you talk to the customer and you create a better relationship, that is difficult, if not impossible to copy. One of your, if you've got a great relationship, it is very hard for your competition to take that relationship away from you. The next one is brand. If you've got a very impressive brand or well-known brand, now for startups, you don't have a brand established yet, but there's a thing called brand hijack. Which is if you get a big company to partner with you, let's say Ericsson or one of the other folks that's one of the big sponsors of this event, if they like your company and they partner with you, and you can say, I'm working with Microsoft, all of a sudden the credibility and the brand of Microsoft is put onto your new company. So and it's not hijacked in a bad way, it's you take the credibility of that brand and you put it on top of your brand, which is the way that most startups create a brand. And then the last one is data or information. If you have more data, more information about your customers, about the marketplace, about your competition, and you use that data effectively, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to copy that. So if you're going to build a great strategy, it has to have those criteria. And the way to do that is great people and culture, great customer relationships, strong brand or partnering with a company with a strong brand, and then finally using the data available to you to create an effective strategy. If you can't meet those 4 criteria, you probably will not build a successful company. Couple other things I want to talk about. And Greg, this is one that you and I talked about from the presentation you saw me in a couple of years ago, is the 3 circles. And Jim Collins, who's a colleague of mine, wrote a very famous book called Good to Great. He looked at more than 1,400 companies and boiled it down to the top 12. And these 12 were 400 to 700% better than their nearest competitors. I mean, if you're a business and you're 700 times more successful, you're running a pretty good business. So they looked at these companies and said, what makes them so good? And part of it was every one of these had these 3 elements. And I talk about it because they're overlapping circles, kind of like an Olympic symbol. The first circle is, what are you truly world-class at? What do you, your team, your startup do that you're truly among the best in the world at what you do, or could be? You're headed in that direction, but world-class. The second overlapping circle is passion. What are you excited about? What gets you up in the morning? What does your team love? What's your purpose? What's your, what are you doing that's going to put a dent in the universe? So passion. Then the third circle is that has value in the marketplace. And Jim calls it an economic engine. So where those 3 circles overlap, world-class plus passion with a strong economic value in the marketplace, that's where you create a great company. Here's the problem that I see with a lot of startups. They're really, really good at something that they love to do, but nobody wants to pay for it. There's no value in the marketplace. That's called a hobby. You might be excited about it. It might be you think it's the greatest idea in the world, but if no one wants to buy it, it's not a business. So, and this is one of the hardest things for many startups to understand is, but you don't understand me. This is the best idea in the world. Everyone will love it. It's awesome. And then you go out, no one wants to buy it. Probably time to pivot, and hopefully you have a good team that can do that. Now, I want to add one other thing to this, another 3 ideas that are more about your career and being trusted and building a solid career along with your business. And that's 3 letters, K, N, and L. This comes from a good friend of mine that wrote a book called Love is the Killer App. And here's what he said: to build a world-class career, and let's look at this as a startup too, both of them. The K stands for knowledge. You've got to be really, really good at something that's highly valuable in the marketplace. You've got to have skills, abilities, talent, experience that people are happy to pay for. So you've got knowledge, really good at something that's highly valuable. The N, which is a really important one for this conference, for what we're doing right now, is network. You want to have a broad network of lots of people that know that you're very good at something that's valuable. Now, let me talk about network for a minute. It's a certain type of person. And they're what I call hubs. They're like the middle of a wheel with all the spokes going out. They sit in the middle. A hub is somebody that they're really impressed with you. They don't tell 5 or 10 people. They tell 500 or 1,000 people about how great you are, because they are super well connected. Years ago, I wrote a book, and it wasn't doing very well on the bestsellers list. It was number 1131, so more than number 1,000 down the bestsellers list. And then Guy Kawasaki, who was the marketing director at Apple, happened to read it, liked it, and put a tweet out and said, "I really like this book. It's awesome. I recommend it highly." I went from number 1131 to number 11 on the bestsellers list in about 48 hours. The reason was Guy Kawasaki has 3 million Twitter followers. I'm not saying you'll find someone that has 3 million connections, but if you find people that have thousands or tens of thousands of connections and they know you're really good at something that's valuable, as long as you have the third piece, the L, which is love. If you're a loving, kind person of integrity and honesty, and a lot of the right people know that about you, and they also know that you're really, really good at something that's highly valuable, now, then you've built a right career. Now, let's go back and look at a startup. If you're an honest startup of values with integrity that does what you say your business will do. You always tell the truth. A lot of the right people know that about you. And they also know that you put a product or a service out that's highly valuable, you will build a world-class company. So the three questions you have to ask, both as an individual and a business, is what did I learn today? What did my team learn today, or me? Who did we meet today? Did we create a connection with a hub that can introduce us to a lot of people and help us? And did we live our values today, or did I live my values today? If every day you're learning something, meeting somebody and living by your values, or your organization is living by their values, you are on target to build a world-class company. We've got about 15 minutes before the Q&A. Let me see if you have one really good question now, and then I've got one more big idea to share, and then we've got...
sensed it. You sensed it. There is one which is really good and refers to the problem that startups have of no market need for a great product. So we have one of the question about running a pivot for a young startup, you know. So Rafał asked how a young leader of a startup can survive a really tough pivot of his company.
Say the last part. How can a young leader of a startup survive what?
A very tough pivot of a company. So very tough change they need to go.
So having to make really hard decisions and lots of tough things happening to the company.
And changes, pivoting the startup as well.
Changes happening to the company, things like that. Couple of things. Number one, that's what you should expect. That's going to happen to everybody that's listening. You're going to go through tough times. You're going to run out of money, possibly. You're going to have to fire people, maybe your friends that are working with you. You're going to find out that nobody wants to buy your product. And this won't happen to all of you, but these tough things will happen. So part of it is you have to expect it. The other thing that I think is really important for a young leader to help them start their company and grow it and handle these big challenges is mentors. Is to have a board of advisors or a board of directors or mentors that when you hit one of these roadblocks, you go to them and ask for advice or input. I've worked in my life for several billionaires and many, many other people that run multi-billion-dollar companies. And here's what I've learned. They're really good at asking for help. They ask for insights, advice, suggestions, help. They surround themselves with really smart people, and they're humble enough to go and say, I don't have all the answers. Can you help me? What do you think I should do? So I think to handle all the challenges you're going to handle as a young leader is get some good mentors who can give you good advice and direction, and realize at the end of it all, the end of the day, you have to make the decision. It's your company, or you and your leadership team have to make it. But the more advice and input and suggestions you get, the better decisions you'll make. Did that help? Cool. Let's cover one more thing, and then we're going to go into the Q&A long term. So I'd like to share with you another formula. And this is what I call my formula for business excellence. And this, again, is I've worked with hundreds of companies around the world. I read about 100 business books. I've read a minimum of 100 business books a year for every year since 1989, which is probably before most, if not all, of the people on this call were born. And again, I've looked for the pattern. What are the things that I've seen over and over and over again that the best companies do? And we've talked about a little bit of it, but I want to make sure you understand these. You can do a lot of other stuff, but if you don't do these things, there's no way to build a great startup or successful business. So number one is talent. I said it before. This is going to drive the success of your business. You have to be a fanatic about getting the best people you can possibly get on your team. I like to say you need to be a connoisseur of talent, constantly looking, bringing in great people, taking great care of them, which is going to bring me to number two, culture. Culture is one of the areas that can help or destroy a company very quickly. Even if you have a lot of money and you've got a great market and everything's going, if you have a bad culture that chases away your talent, your business will go out of business. So a couple things about culture. Number one, it's basically the way to look at culture. It's the way we do things around here. It's how we treat each other. It's how we treat our customers. It's the way we interact. You can't demand culture. You can't say this is the way. You can talk about things like we will treat each other with respect. We'll always tell the truth. We'll be customer focused. But a lot of the culture just builds itself by the people you bring on your team. So a great culture looks at, and I mentioned a few things before, is there's 7 factors. Number 1, is it a fun place to work? Do I enjoy the work I do? And then, well, I'll do the first 3. Fun, friends, family. Is it a fun place to work where I work with my friends, sometimes my best friend, and does it have a family atmosphere? Do we truly care about each other? Do we say, how was your weekend? How's your husband? How's your wife? How's your mom? You know, did you catch any fish this weekend when you went fishing? Whatever, but we truly, genuinely like each other and care about each other. So it's a fun place where I work with my friends with a family atmosphere. Next one is freedom. I'm given the help and the support and the resources I need, and then people get out of my way and let me go do my job. I'm not constantly micromanaged. The person isn't always looking over my shoulder, telling me how to do things. Again, as a leader, hire great people, like Steve Jobs said, then get out of their way and let them do great work. So freedom. The next one is fair, and this is not pay. Fair is if I have a problem or an issue or a concern, well, will I be heard? Will people listen to me? Will I be treated fairly? So that's that one. Pride is the next one. Pride says, am I excited to tell people about what I do? Am I proud of the work I do? I'm excited about the products, the services, and I love the company I work with. Very proud. The next one, and this is a really, really important one, is praise. A great leader, and all the research and what I've learned in the companies I've run and the companies I work with, coach now, is you should give some sort of genuine, honest, specific praise about once a week. And if you're work from home now, if you're not together in the same place and you're doing it all through Zoom or Google or whatever way you meet, it actually needs to be more. And in a startup, it's really important to celebrate small wins. If anything goes right, you want to celebrate it, get excited. You still have a lot of work to do, and you still have to hold people accountable. That'll be the last thing I teach you here in a couple of minutes. But people like to be on a winning team. And that momentum of a win here, a small win, a big win. We made our first big sale. We got a new investor. One of our prototypes worked perfectly. Stop for a minute and tell everybody, this is awesome. Let's celebrate, and then get back to work. But I'm coaching several CEOs right now, and I just talked to one, and one of his top executives, and he said, no matter what we do, the CEO always has a problem with something. We just won a $3 million new contract. CEO says, has the lawyer seen the contract? Are you sure it's perfect? It's in the contract? And they're like, we just told you we closed $3 million in business, and all you're worried about now is the contract right? Can't we just be happy about this for a minute? So lots of celebrations, lots of praise. And then the last one is meaning. And a big word here is purpose now. Am I working for something I'm truly, deeply passionate about, something that I feel like I can bring my whole self to it, and I'm willing to dedicate my time, energy, effort to this thing that I care about. So the interesting thing about everything I've just said there is none of it costs money. They're all what I call atmosphere issues. These are all leadership and culture ideas. So you can have a great culture and it doesn't cost another penny. If you don't have a great culture, it will cost you everything. So an important place to look. So we've got talent plus culture. And then the next one is extreme customer focus. And if you're taking notes, underline extreme like 23 times. I said it earlier, whoever owns the voice of the customer owns the marketplace. Whoever knows the customer the best, understands their needs, their wants, their wishes, their fears, has a huge competitive advantage. And very few companies do this. Very few are good at this. I'd say 95% of businesses do not listen to their customer well. So I'm going to give you a question to ask your customers. Once you have some, if you're just brand new, or ones you've got now, go to them and ask them this question. I just went to all my customers, clients, and just asked this question recently. Here it is. Why specifically did you do business with us? What are the top 3 or 4 reasons? So why specifically did you buy our product? What are the top 3 or 4 reasons? Why specifically did you hire us to deliver this service? What are the top 3 or 4 reasons? If every time you get a customer or you look at your best customers, if you ask them this question, they tell you the 3 or 4 reasons they bought from you, here's what you're going to find. There will be, ready for this word, a pattern. And that pattern will become your brand. That pattern becomes your marketing, your advertising, your brand, your sales pitch, everything. Because I figure if a whole bunch of people over here spent money for the same 3 or 4 reasons, new customers will likely want to spend money with you for the same 3 or 4 reasons. So that should be on the front of your website. It should be on all your, on your business plan. Everything is, here are the problems we solve. Here's why people buy from us. And by the way, the only person that can tell you that is customers. So you can't guess at this. You can't make it up. You can't imagine it. You actually have to go talk to people who have written a check or given you money, because it is a famous author here in America, Mark Twain, said, the only critic whose opinion counts is the customer. So we've got the first 3, talent plus culture plus extreme customer focus. The last one is disciplined execution. And I've said this through everything. It doesn't matter how great your strategy or your product or your service or your plan is. If you can't execute it and deliver it every day, it's worthless. Another way to look at disciplined execution is accountability. In addition to that winning culture that's happy and excited and celebrating, you also have to have a culture of accountability where people deliver what they are supposed to deliver. They deliver on their promises. So there are 5 keys, I believe. Sometimes I change these. I'm going to guess it's going to be 5 things you have to do to create a culture of accountability. And this is a huge issue that all the companies I work with worldwide, everybody always has a problem with accountability and execution. So here they are. If I, and I'll use Greg as an example. Greg, if I'm going to hold you accountable for something, and it's a big project, it's not like, hey, could you run down and get some more water at the store or whatever it might be. This is something that I would call mission critical. It's got to get done. Number 1, 100% clarity plus appropriate authority and resources. In other words, if I'm going to hold somebody accountable for something really important, I have to be exceedingly clear on what success looks like. They have to know exactly what I expect, set very clear expectations. And one of the ways to do that is to make it binary. The expectations are clear. It's 1-0, black, white, yes, no, no guessing. I either know if I achieved it or I don't. Here's one of my favorite phrases. I've been giving you everybody else's. Ambiguity breeds mediocrity. Ambiguity breeds mediocrity. If people don't know what excellence and success looks like, there's no way for them to achieve it. And then I said appropriate authority and resources. If the person has to make decisions or work on a team and lead another team, they have to have enough authority to make those decisions. And then you have to give them as much the appropriate resources, whatever you can give to them, make sure they have what they need to be successful. If you ask a really, really smart, talented person to accomplish a task and you don't let them make the decisions and they don't have the resources to do it, it will frustrate them and they will leave. So that's number 1. Number 2 is 100% agreement. So I've sat down and I've told Greg, this is what I want to have happen. This is the due date. This is how it will be measured. These are the numbers. These are the metrics. Here's everything about it. I need Greg to look back at me and say, I understand this completely. What I always tell my clients is have the person send you an email outlining what they agreed to. Adriana on my team who's watching this, she just saw one of my clients. I assigned 6 or 7 things for them to do. They wrote back this morning a list. You have asked me to do this. You've asked me to do this. You've asked me to do this. You've asked me to do this. Here's the due dates. This is what I have to deliver this. Is this correct? And I wrote back, yes, this is 100% correct. Thank you. We are now on the same page. We both understand what the expectations are. I have asked companies around the world, again, do you do these 2 things well? On a scale of 1 to 10 is I'm awesome at setting clear goals, getting 100% clarity and getting 100% agreement. Scale of 1 to 10, no one has ever said that they're a 10, ever. I had one guy in Australia raise his hand. I went, "You're lying." And he went, "You're right." And he put his hand back down. If you did just these two things, clarity and agreement, you are now in the top of organizations that have high accountability. The last few things on this. Number 3 then is track and post. If you're going to hold people accountable, they need to know where they stand against their goal. How am I doing? Am I on my way? And some of the top businesses in the world, Ford Motor Company, Microsoft, Boeing, some of the ones I've worked with, they use just green, yellow, red. Green, you're doing great. Yellow, you're struggling. Red, you're in trouble. And so you're tracking all those key metrics. How are we doing on our delivery dates, on our internal hurdle rates, on our testing of our prototypes, whatever it might be? Are we meeting our deadlines? Most people think that you track them to punish them. I'm tracking you to get mad at you or tell you you missed this or did this wrong or whatever. That's why number 4 is so important. It's coach and mentor and support people. So when they slip from green to yellow and they start to, fall behind a little bit, you don't get mad at them, you help them. Everybody on the team helps them. That doesn't mean you do their job for them, but you go in and say, how can I help you? Do you need more resources? Do you need more support? And what happens then is people realize that tracking equals help. Tracking doesn't equal punishment, tracking equals help. And then they get excited about the tracking because you want everybody in your company to be green all the time, because then your company is green, 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 and you're being successful. So track and post. And when I say post, make sure it's easy for people to see, and do it in a way that's super easy to understand. Green, yellow, red. Then the last 2 are celebrate success lavishly. When someone is green, 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 and they're delivering and they're meeting the deadlines and they're doing everything right, praise them heavily. Thank them. Give them an award. Take them out for pizza. Give them some extra money. I don't know, but reinforce positive behavior. You were green, green, green. Thank you. This is awesome. This is what we want. The reverse is refuse to tolerate mediocrity. If someone is consistently yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, you're helping them, you're coaching them, you're supporting them, the team's trying to support them, and they can't get back into green, then they likely don't belong on your team. So I'll leave you with this idea, which goes to that, is the lowest performing employee in your organization sets the standard of excellence for the entire company. And if you allow someone to be mediocre, what you're telling everybody else is we really don't care about excellence. It's not that big of a deal. This person over here is not that good, but we're just going to keep them on the team. So let me do that formula again. We've got talent plus culture plus extreme customer focus, all multiplied by disciplined execution, which is created through accountability. Greg, I believe I'm exactly on time, and we have 12 minutes for Q&A.
Whoa, and we have hundreds of questions. So I don't know how we will handle that. But yeah, let's go through them quickly. So first question is, you said about strategic planning and the importance of strategic planning, and then we have a flexibility on the other side. How can we, make them work together?
This is very, very hard. It's a balancing act. But I said it earlier, and I'll repeat it. You change, you're flexible, and you pivot, and you change when the market demands it. If your strategy is working, you've got good traction, you're going forward, have the courage to stay the course. Mm-hmm. But if something big changes or people won't buy your product or whatever it might be, then you have to be flexible and move. I see a lot of companies struggle because they're changing all the time. If you're changing all the time, you will never get any forward momentum. So balance flexibility when the market demands it versus a good strategy.
Okay, so then a quick one, but a difficult one. How to fight micromanaging?
Hire good people and trust them. And if you do the accountability stuff of clarity and expectations, you as a leader, you have to trust your people to do great work. And here's an important point: not necessarily the way you would do it. That's why I said set clear expectations. This is the final product I want. How you get there, I shouldn't care about it, as long as we get it there and it's legal and it's ethical, and all that stuff. But how you get from A to Z, that really doesn't matter to me as long as you get to the destination. That's why this key idea of setting expectations, or what we would call intention. My intention is for this to happen. This is a big leadership problem that a lot of people struggle with, and it all comes down to trusting that your people can deliver what you both agreed to. And if they can't, then micromanaging comes in to get them back on track.
Okay, I need to buy another notebook after today. So we have a good question from a mentor right now. So let's look at the other perspective. And the mentor asked a good question. How can a founder identify the right moment to step down and pass the leadership to another person?
Here's what I've seen in the past. When a company outgrows the talent level of the leader. So depending on the size of the company, I normally see this around 50 million in revenues and maybe 100 employees. And at that point, it's probably too big. If the founder hasn't run other companies like that, it's probably starting to get too big for them to run themselves. What I see with a lot of founders is they're the visionary, they're the face of the company. And when the company starts to get too big for them to handle and manage, and they're overwhelmed, that's the time to bring in professional management, to bring in somebody that's taken a company from 10 million to 100 million, or 50 million to 500 million. And it's easy for them because they've done it a couple times. That's the way I've seen it happen in the past. When the leader's over their head, it's time to bring in someone who's already done it, been there, done that, and has the expertise. And it's really hard for founders to do that because the company is their baby. But if you don't let someone else, it's kind of like bringing the baby to the doctor. The baby's sick because you can't run it. If you don't bring it to the doctor, we're probably, I don't want to use the analogy, the baby will die, but the baby will get sicker. You got to be able to have enough courage to hand it over when you know that you can't run it well anymore. Good question. Thank you.
Right. Great answer. We wish all to be at this moment one day.
Let me add one thing there too. This is why you have a board of directors. Or board of advisors. When your board of directors or board of advisors says it's time for you to step aside and for us to bring in someone that's done this before, that's specifically why you have that group, to make sure that they can be from outside and see it and give you that advice. Sorry, Greg, I had to add that.
Yes, sure. So we have which one to focus on now. I'll try to take at least one question from one person, because some people asked many questions. So I think it refers to what you said before. Should the business culture be determined based on the customers, the project, or the team? Which one is most important?
The culture? From a culture standpoint, it's around the team.
Okay.
That's who you build the culture for.
Okay, I would expect you to say customers are the ones that define everything around.
Not from a culture standpoint. Customers, as long as you're talking to the right ones, define at some level the project, and maybe the people you put on your team who can achieve that. You want to be very customer focused. From a culture standpoint, though, you want to build it with your team internally to create the kind of culture that will focus on the customer. Here's a really important point, and I say this to a lot of companies, and they don't always understand it. The customer's experience will never exceed the employee's experience. If you don't have engaged, excited, motivated, talented people, it is impossible to have happy customers. So from a leadership standpoint, hire great people, take great care of them, give them clear instruction, listen to the customer, and they can go out and deliver excellence. If you have a bad culture internally or non-talented people, it is impossible to satisfy customers. So I'll say that one again. The customer's experience will never exceed the employee's experience. These are wonderful questions. Thank you to all the people that are asking them. Thank you.
And you're ready to every question. It's not that we made them up before and make a scenario. It's how John responds to
people.
Yes. So I don't know how much time we have left.
6 minutes.
6 minutes. All right. So we've got a question about very on time about work from home. So the question is how to build a focused and happy team working from home.
Wow. Okay, you've just hit a question I can't answer. This is the single biggest challenge I'm facing in my career right now, and I've termed it culture at a distance. Everybody is struggling with this. I can tell you a couple things that will help. Number one is to not always talk about business, to talk about family and talk about hobbies and talk about other things so that we're making a personal connection. Trust, in large part, is built on a genuine connection between people, and they get to know each other. And you only do that by sharing some personal information, not super personal. So number one is you have to set some time aside to just talk about things you would normally talk about if you went to lunch together. Another thing with culture, the biggest thing that drives it right now at a distance is purpose. The way I like to say it is people will get out of bed in the morning and go to work for a paycheck. They will jump out of bed in the morning and do their best work for a purpose. So one of the things that holds your culture together at a distance is getting everyone excited about what you're trying to accomplish together. The purpose, the exciting, meaningful things you're doing, that bonds your culture together. And then I think the last one, again, is lots of celebration, is calling people out, thanking them on Zoom, celebrating them when someone does great work. Again, so you create that culture. And here's a great phrase: create a culture of catching people doing things right. Constantly get everyone in your organization to constantly be looking for something that someone else did great and praising them and celebrating them. And if everybody is constantly trying to catch each other doing something right, you will build a very strong, positive culture.
That's it. So that's a really good answer to this really difficult question. So now we have another good one, which is, should we give up leadership if we are very good in research and product development, but we lack business skills?
Yes.
Yes.
That was the answer. The answer is, if you're really, really good at product development, but you're not good at leadership and you know it, and you're not, and here's what happens a lot of time with people with very good technical expertise, they don't really want to lead. They just want to work on their stuff. Mm-hmm. Steve Wozniak, who I've had the pleasure of spending some time with, did not want to lead the organization. He just wanted to work on technology. It's one of the reasons he left Hewlett-Packard, is they wanted to make him a manager. And he said, I don't want to be a manager. I just want to work on the stuff. So if you're great at technical and you don't really want to lead and you're not good at it, again, hand it off to somebody else that wants to lead, that does a good job, that has experience. That's a really good question and a really tough answer.
Thank you for that. I'll keep asking. Just tell me when should I stop. One more, two more questions.
Is 41 after? So we have 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay. So now we have another very difficult question. Is there a general way, probably not, but maybe, to de-risk our business in order to attract both investors and A players? So I think de-risking business is a key thing here of the question.
So every startup has some level of risk, some much higher than others. You will never minimize that risk totally. The thing is, and wow, I'm thinking because it's a pretty long answer. The thing you want to look back at risk is probability and impact. And it's a quadrant. What is the probability that something would go wrong in the business? And what would the impact be if that went wrong? So what you want to look at, everything in the organization is, say, probability and impact. If it's low probability, low impact, don't worry about it. Just delegate it away, let it go. Don't need to worry about that. A talent is it. If it's high probability, low impact, this is a learning opportunity for one of your folks. Give it to them and let them mess it up. Let them do it wrong and say, okay, great. It didn't hurt. We knew it was probably going to fail. You learned some stuff. Great. If it is low probability, high impact, probably won't happen. But if it does, it'll help. It will go out of business. That's where you pull a great team in. That's where you say we've got risk, but we can overcome it, and there's a very little chance it's going to happen to us. If it does, it'll be bad. but probably not going to happen. Then there is, and this is a lot of startups, high probability, high impact. There's a good chance that something will go wrong, and if it does, it'll be catastrophic. That's where you need a board of advisors, a board of directors, something to say, this is not a good idea, the risk is too high. When talent looks at your organization, they're going to look at the top two quadrants I just talked about: low probability, high impact, high probability, high impact. If you're up in those areas, it's very hard to bring in lots of investors and lots of talent, because they see the downside more than they see the upside of the organization. That was a really tough one to answer in 1 minute. You're exactly on time, Greg. We have 1 minute left.
Okay, everything is so precise. So I'll give a quick question here. Good for a closing question. Which country is the best direction for expansion of the tech startups?
I can't answer that because it's all over. New Zealand is doing great right now. Armenia is doing great. Amsterdam has a lot of great tech startups. Obviously in America, we have a lot. So I can't name one great country. There's lots of people being innovative. Here's what I will end on this. The world is now your talent pool. You don't have to get up and move to New Zealand. This week, I did a presentation in Italy. Yesterday was India. Today is Poland with you. This afternoon is Canada, all from this office. So the world now is your talent pool. You can work with anybody in the world you want to over Zoom, because we're all used to this now. So every place is a place that you can be successful. That's a great way to end it.
Yes, that's a really great ending. And you know, thanks to the fact that world is a talent pool, if we look on this from another side, is that thanks to this connectivity we have right now, we can have you today in Łódź, which is something really, really fantastic. And this is the best opening of a program we could ever imagine. John, thank you very much for your fantastic contribution to the city of Łódź, to Łódź startup community. It's been an honor, and I'm really, really happy, and we are all very grateful to you for your time spent on us. And I'm just passing right now voice to Elena.
Thank you so much, John, for this wonderful speech. You are amazing. Speaking about those 3 areas that you mentioned, world-class, passion, and the value, you are definitely in the middle, in the genius zone. And I'm sure that our listeners, both startups and our mentors, they have got great value out of your presentation. So thank you so much for being with us. Now let me move shortly to Polish language to introduce the next part. Przejdźmy na język polski. Teraz to jest już koniec tej oficjalnej części inauguracji i również pozostanę na kolejnej części, ale już jako mentor, więc moje tutaj obowiązki prowadzącej na tym się kończą i chciałbym przekazać w tym momencie głos Julii Skrzypkowskiej, która wprowadzi Państwa w drugą część wydarzenia. Proszę bardzo.
Dzień dobry Państwu. Już za chwilę, za 15 minut, słuchajcie, to jest naprawdę moment dla Was, żeby gdzieś tam szybko złapać kubek kawy, bo jak traficie już na warsztaty, które poprowadzimy z Alicją Rasmus już za te 15 minut, będziecie mogli tylko i wyłącznie pracować wspólnie już z Waszym mentorem, poznawać się wzajemnie i doświadczać tej relacji, dla której tak naprawdę dołączyliście do tego konkursu. Przygotowałyśmy dla Was wiele możliwości, trochę niespodziewanych sytuacji i takiej przestrzeni warsztatowej do tego, żeby zacząć te pierwsze relacje, otworzyć Was troszeczkę bardziej, stworzyć przestrzeń do tego, żebyście wzajemnie z mentorem poznali się w takim przyjaznym i specjalnie dla Was przygotowanym przygotowanym programie. Więc już za chwilę, słuchajcie, bądźcie punktualni, my zaczynamy prawie że punktualnie, może 2 minutki poczekamy na resztę, ale nie przegapcie tego momentu spotkania z waszym mentorem. Do zobaczenia.